Okay, and we got some decision items on here, right? So.
You get bonus mark for being so organized on the budget.
Okay, the other one's a little easier for me to go through, so is this a checks and balances and we're saying yes or no to these things?
I think, yeah, if there's anything that's what I suggest, if anything that jumps off the page that council would like to have a detailed discussion on, by all means, I don't think we need to go line by line.
Okay,
Because the intent here is to draw out the major issues for council to discuss, right? We're not getting into how many boxes of paper we're buying, anything like that.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to have a discussion on any of the highlight items, by all means.
Okay, so let's start at page 10. Does anybody have any questions on these that are?
You on page 10?
Yeah.
Those list of donations, I guess, or whatever you want, for them, is that, do we have any input on that?
Yeah, so we'll asterisk it and we'll go back through all those. So any other ones jump out on the page?
Did we say that there would not be, that we would table the increase in council redeeming benefits till next year? Did we not say that yesterday? So that would be money in our favor now, 17,000? Money that we would not be spending?
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
As of the council meeting yesterday, we decided to defer
Yeah.
to 2022.
And get an external body to look at it, so that's.
If I can just pause council's discussion on that for a second. Pat, can you confirm that is all salaries and benefits, that 17,396? I don't want to cut something out of there that we shouldn't be cutting.
It's the line number 2 on general government.
On page 10.
Yeah, just give me a
Is that
second.
you?
That's a good catch.
The second one on the credit comment?
Pardon?
With our computer that's been put on that?
No.
No? Is this separate from that?
Yeah, because that was on the capital.
That's correct.
So if council's will is there for last night, that can come out.
Okay, is there anything else on that page that jumps out at anybody else?
EMO increase?
Okay,
I'm just curious.
anything else on that page?
What is public health and welfare?
That is the
Fourplex
fourplex.
that we talked about earlier on, what street is that?
No,
Hospital Street, across from the hospital? That
Okay,
one?
sorry.
No.
Okay,
So we did asterisk the grant for the donations.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I asterisk just the removal of the per diems, the non-government organization expenses and the EMO cost for that page. Any others? Okay, let's go over to 11. Anything jump out there for anybody? Asterisk that and then come back. I asterisk the programmer position removed. I have concerns on that.
The impound fence and site prep work? Are we on page 11, where are you guys put it down?
Page, yeah.
I can answer that when we want to do it now or after.
Let's asterisk and come back. Where is that one?
It's the second paragraph on page 11.
Oh, I see, okay. 14,000 one.
For the impound fence?
Okay, anything else on that page? Okay, we'll move over to page 12. Any asterisks on that?
The parks and playground, let's continue, sorry. Yeah, in just general recreation and culture, I notice parks and playground expenses have a decrease. I'm just curious about, there's been talk in the past about water park, playground equipment improvements.
Okay, so I'll asterisk that.
Yeah.
Any others?
If you asterisk the programmer position,
Yeah.
I think the other asterisk of no programmer, therefore no programs, would have to be part of that as well.
Okay.
And again, just on the airport issues, is any of that pending ACAP money, or is it? It's not, okay,
This is just strictly operational budget.
okay.
Okay. Page
Sorry.
Yep.
Reduction of the reserve transfer for utilities,
Decrease.
the very last
Okay.
bullet.
Yeah, I'll ask you that as well. Okay, page 13. Any concerns on any of these items?
I'd like to discuss the dog control expenses
Okay.
and the increase in violent bylaw enforcement expenses.
And the policing services expenses, I thought the contract was for $400,000 and this is
We
640.
pay 200 and some
Do we?
One.
Additional?
year.
That's our
Okay.
standard, and then the enhanced is the other form.
Oh, okay. So
Do you need further
almost
clarity on that,
$1
or?
million then on policing is what we're paying again?
No,
No,
640.
The RCB cost is 640.
Oh, okay, that's all.
The
Okay,
overall program area
Uh-huh.
with enforcement of that is 1.5 million, but because that includes fire too, right? That's protective services, that's not.
Right, yeah, I was asking about the policing piece.
Oh, sorry, and also I'm just curious about understanding what building services expenses are.
Building services, whereabouts is that one?
Second
Under
one.
protective services, second one.
Okay, thank you. Did you want more information?
No,
on-
it's clear.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and then page 14.
Economic development, just understanding the breakdowns of the operations expense. Are there other expenses as well, or is it just salary right now?
Okay. Any others?
Rec and culture, there's a reduction, and I'm just curious about what did we spend money on from last year?
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to page 10. So the start of that.
So I just want to highlight council, some of those details are in the variances, right? So
Yeah.
you look at some of the direct culture changes, that's all summarized in the previous
Okay.
page.
Okay.
So,
So where would I find the 95,000 requested by the library? Like, I know that we did an installment of 23,540, is that further? Because the total request from the library was more than 20.
Pat, where is the library coded to for the grant?
As long as it's in here, I don't need to know where it's coded right now, because I'm sure we'll come through it. But I just want to ensure that it's in.
Didn't do the agriculture.
I'm not sure for a second, but I'll look.
Okay, I think Joe found it included in rec and culture, 95,000, or?
That's where I was headed to look. It was either
Oh, there it is,
health or rec.
Okay.
But it does
I want to say 23.
only state 23.
Yeah, it states 23, it needs to, 95, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 95
Yeah,
something for the year.
we'll let Pat dig into it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to page 10. Let's dive into these non-government organization expenses at 53,000. So these are just yes or no for sort of keeping the budget, or is that right?
Well, I
Next question.
did see, I have no problem with the Elks, I think they do wonderful things in the community, they're always supporting other groups. I haven't seen the nature that requesting for the drive-in movie that they do in the summer, is that what it's for, does anyone know?
Can I just add, there's been letters sent out to nonprofit organizations to submit to this. We're already deciding what we're going to be paying, and a lot of these people just receive these, so why are?
Well, there's the community grant piece, right, and those would fall
where it
under
is
the
there.
community
Okay.
grant,
Yeah.
and these are specific organizations.
So again,
That's where the one that
these are,
charging.
these are submitted requests.
Yeah, the one that you're referring to is for 20,225, that's what Tony's managing right now through that process, letters.
So there's funds for these people to submit to. Correct, gotcha.
So is that something like the Elks should be submitting for to that, or is this a separate?
It's up to council.
So, sorry, just so I'm understanding here, we have a municipal grant system which we went live with this year. And is that, what budgetary amount do we have
The
towards that?
community grant for money aside councillor, the community grant, which is 20,225.
20,225, and that is split in half between two.
No, I think anybody can apply.
No, that's the different groups that Tony's managing through the process right now, taking grant applications and whatnot.
What I'm asking is there's two openings to it, like the spring and the fall. Is it each one is 20,225?
No, total for the year.
Total, so 10,000 per
Sorry, I
cycle.
misunderstood, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know what that total was. I'm glad that I know now.
And that's what we see at the second line of asterisks there.
Councillor Bashar?
Okay, so just so I fully understand, the Elks, Arts Council, Men of the North, and Community Mobilization, those were direct requests made of council for this budget year that have not been dispersed.
I recall all the requests except for the Elks Drive-In and
That's.
the arts one. Was that the fish or is that something else?
Well, I'm just wondering if the administration can clarify that these are letters that have come to the council table or through administration, and they were all deferred until budget.
I have to defer that to Pat and let her confirm that, because she's the one that sees the numbers, so.
Okay.
Yes, yes, they are, and the community grant one is the one that Tony is taking applications for, 20,000 to 25. And to answer your question, Viviana, on page 13, GG grants and donations, that's where your library is for 95,000.
Perfect, thank you.
Since it's all on the same page in front of me, I can give you two answers at once.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So, these were asks that should, in my personal opinion, should be going to the community grant, no? Rather than us trying to pick out one by one. I mean, that's sort of what we decided as a council, instead of making individual, I mean, we can, I mean, that's our decision, but, I thought that's what we did. Sorry, Councilor Bashar.
I'm just wondering, Tony, none of these organizations that are specifically listed here have applied to the grant program, or were they contacted and asked to apply through that?
The Arts Council happened before the grant process occurred. The Men of the North is, they have applied for funding through the community grant money, and those are the only two that I'm aware of.
And the deadline is April 30th, correct?
Correct.
So,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that maybe we just need to allocate all this money, because the whole idea was that Tony would sort of see how much is actually applied for, so we can budget for, and I think that Tony and maybe whoever else she deems essential, create a grant committee that, you know, creates a rubric of merit. She's really great at that.
Councilor, to bring into the conversation as to what Councilor McPhail had talked about, we're talking 10,000 per half year. You know what I'm saying, we need some clarity here, in a sense.
And this is the issue that we had and why we wanted to defer to the budgetary discussions, in my view, was we didn't want to politicize any decision on who we donate to and what causes that we would eventually have to debate which one was more important in our community, and that way we would have a municipal grant or community grant system. And I think that, you know, in lieu of not having a programmer this year, and a lot of these organizations are doing a lot of really good work with a good volunteer base. I personally, rather than going through and saying, do we support the Elks, do we support the Arts, do we support and going every single budgetary year, going through the asks that we've had and continually defer it, that I would prefer to see a policy developed 100% to a, what way is our decision on community grants. And I have no problem with increasing the community grant program to be able to support more of these organizations that are doing really good work in our community, and rather than this continually coming back here to a council discussion or delegations, I think a delegation is important, so that they can get their message across to town council and staff that might be tuning into the meetings as well. But once again, I still have a huge issue going through each individual request and giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down to it at every single budget cycle.
Yeah, I mean, if you do some rough and cut numbers here, we're at $53,000.
That's the top number, the 53,225. That's including the 20,000 that we currently have, right?
Just want to highlight though, there's one item here to make sure council's aware that council special interest, that is dedicated money that because it's been my experience that halfway through the year, an initiative comes up, like an event or whatever, that $5,000 is for council earmark, whether it's to a particular event or initiative or whatever. So I just want to stress that 5,000 should get pulled out in terms of not
I
locking
would
into the
agree.
community grant amount.
I would agree. So it may be arbitrary, based on what I see here though. And based on the fact that we don't have a programmer staffed and we don't have money for programs for this next budget year, I would say that we don't look at the details of this, but set a budget like to create the space for community support, that we set a budget of $50,000 for the 2021 year to be dispersed through the program, and the 5,000 being in addition to that. Just as a thought of a way that we can review after, like in the next year's budget, but
I just want to clarify, Councillor, so I mean, I don't disagree, I think I'm there. So does that mean everything comes off the table in terms of the Elks Drive Arts Council, and we just directly have to apply through the program? So we're just putting a lump sum in there, and then everything else we're not approving tonight, we're just approving the amount, and then what I'm hearing is policy-driven process comes back, and we encourage the Elks Drive and Arts Council men in the north to go and apply to that program. So to keep it simple, 50 grand plus $5,000, done.
Yes.
Is $50,000 what we want to keep it at?
That's 2.5% of our entire budget.
Well,
You were an accountant in your prior life, weren't you?
25,000 each cycle, I think that if we're not providing community programming, our community programmer, I should correct, because we will be providing community program, but because if we don't have a programmer, is what I meant to say, we should make this possible if we can.
But if we don't have a community programmer, should we be looking at a community programmer?
Here's the issue I have with setting a $50,000 limit in the intention that it's going to be, building up a bit of a gap of community programming from a town of Orange's perspective. If we put a $50,000 mark on it, which is 2.5% of the budget, then we add a programmer to it, and then later cut the budget on municipal grants, the optics of that don't look very good either. I think we have to do something that we are comfortable doing year after year after year. And for me, right now we're at $20,000 currently through the two the two municipal grant programs that we currently have. I would say that I'm comfortable at a 1.5% to 2%, so $30,000 to $40,000 going out to helping, whatever the grants that might be coming in, whether it be non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, to be able to provide services for their clients. I think that's an important thing that we do to support the volunteers in our community as well.
And I think another thing we should consider is having a cap for individual amounts that we give, so it gives an opportunity for more groups benefiting in a particular year.
A max that you can apply for?
Yeah, a max for
Which I think could be
organization. I'm not saying what that amount is.
No, we have to come back as far as a policy discussion in a future council meeting, right? So.
Can I also put something out there to the table here as well? When you look at the rumblings of this town and our residents, when people are asking, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do, who does that come back on typically? The leadership, right?
The town.
The town. So if we don't have a position in place creating that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting the work that these guys do, but they're not on the hook for creating that programming and that youth initiative and all the other things that we're sort of trying to change.
to rebut that, that's also our fault for communication, poor communication, lack of communication, not setting the stage for things. And you can model it 100 different ways, programmer, no programmer. You can support the community to be able to provide programming people want, or you can take it on yourself. And there's lots of different ways that you can model it. I'm looking at 2021.
So.
And while I get the consistency, and I'm, you know what, I'm happy to discuss that number that you've put out there as well. I don't know, we're not at the point of talking about programmer yet, so.
Okay, I mean, yeah, sorry, that's.
And program, we're trying to establish for being a budget night, is establishing a budget number.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Right.
is that kind of a, what you're talking about, George, is that kind of a recommendation, or?
Like, for me, I think at 2.5% of the total budget, I think we're high for this year. And I think a lot of this is going into the consideration that we don't have that programmer. And that's why we're willing to set it a little higher, because we're going to have a lot of non-government organizations and community-based organizations taking up that mantle to try and provide those services to our residents. And I think, you know, where we stand on the municipal grants and how much we rely on the experts, I mean, that's another positive thing to supporting the community-based and non-government organizations is if we hire a programmer and we want to do guitar lessons, you can't do that through a community program that doesn't know how to play guitar, or, you know, they might have to hire somebody to do that as well. So all those budgetary requirements that you have on those fronts, if you go and give the Arts Council $2,000, let's just use that as a rough number here, they might be able to go out and get guitar lessons and violin lessons. So what you were able to offer your residents through the bang for the buck, if you will, might increase as you are able to hand that money out to those organizations in the community. So to me, this is where I think being somewhat conservative, I don't think we should approve every request that comes through the door, and that's kind of where we're at that 50,000 right now. I believe that if we take that a little bit more conservative approach to this before it might work a little better for us.
Can I ask a really quick question of Tony? Tony, how many proposals have come in, if you don't mind me asking?
And what's the total amount requested without revealing any details?
In total, right now, there's 2 applications that are in, one that is for a little amount and one that's for a very large amount.
Making up that 20,225 number?
Well, 10,000 because it's 10,000 per cycle, right?
Oh, okay.
So does it exceed 10,000 or not?
Yes, the one application does exceed 20,000 even.
Whoa.
But
Okay.
just because somebody puts an application in for $20,000 does not mean that they're going to receive $20,000. There might be a portion that we can give. It's all going to kind of depend on how many applications we get.
Right.
How many we receive.
And communication-wise, I think that's something that we can start pushing to. Go ahead.
In lieu of COVID, I'm in a position of making a recommendation that we put aside $42,000 for people to apply.
Groups is what the policy says, right? It's not individual groups.
And then we can turn around, like Councillor Iski was stating, that he set policy on how to divvy them funds up. We can actually start every week, way of Sunday.
Okay, does anybody have any disagreement to that?
So just to clarify, just to make sure we're on the same, so we get it reflected.
Mm-hmm.
$42,000, and that means the Elks Drive-In, the Arts Council, London North, and Community Grant, Community Mobilization all get morphed into that $42,000. So the rest of them come off. They apply through that program.
They apply through their
I
program.
just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the official request will be denied, but we will direct them to go to the community
I
grant
just want to make
process.
sure we're on the same page.
And-
For some reason.
42,000 is a comfortable number, I think that's fair, and that would be 2 intakes of 21,000 or thereabouts, right?
Yeah. Okay, everyone's good on that?
I'm good.
Okay, let's move down to the EMO cost of $30,000 increase. I don't know what EMO stands for, so.
Emergency measures operation.
Thank you.
You know, maybe.
Oh, see, I see this as the.
10:30.
Wow, okay, anyways, no, because it gets called different things, it's like the MC meeting or not the MC meeting, but the EMC and then all this other stuff, it's like, anyways, so there's an increase in the cost for that because of,
What? Pat,
That's just, that is, sorry, it's Keaton here. That's just our, emergency plan for the town. I know Dean had wanted to set aside some funds to get a third party in and, do a proper risk assessment on the town, and develop an emergency plan, because it is gonna take a lot of work, and it's something that, I would just be spending 100% of my time on to develop that.
And,
So, yeah.
go ahead.
So does that, are there people on town staff already that are incident command systems trained? Or is that something that we need to do? I think I read someone is the incident commander, would that be yourself? Do we have an incident commander? Like through the incident command systems?
Yes, there would be myself, deputy chief, and all of our
Okay.
officers are incident commanders.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Looks like he's reporting the weather.
How's the weather?
Councillor Rob.
Yes, it's sunny and beautiful.
So just, I guess, again, a point of interest, Keaton, our EMO emergency plan, it hasn't been open since, it hasn't been revised, I guess, correct? Is that what Dean's looking at? We don't have an emergency plan, a current emergency plan? Is that where we're going with this, trying to get this?
We currently have a tri-community plan, that is, more of a phone book, if you really will, and roles and responsibilities. It doesn't give us a proper risk assessment of, okay, we got a wildfire coming in, what are we gonna do about it, right? And we are required, I believe, by Act to have a emergency plan for each municipality.
So with
So once
this,
we have those in place, then we can have, a full tri-community plan.
so is this an accurate number, 30,000 to develop that plan? Or does that
This was
include
just set
equipment?
aside, Dean had recommended to just put that amount away.
For a community
So
size,
it
it's
could
actually
be less
pretty
than
accurate.
more.
Yeah, like that, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Okay, probably looking about $25,000.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pamela Golden McLeod, who is the emergency operations person who now for the Saskatoon Fire Department. And Saunders, I can't remember his first name, over there. But I don't know, but if, you probably know people to contact, better than I do, but if you want people who might not cost 30,000.
So is this something that we have to approve?
I have been talking with the SPS.
Or is this already in the budget?
Representatives.
Okay.
Okay,
Does anybody have any?
Anybody wants to take it on?
Clear.
okay, perfect.
Okay, let's move on to page 11. The new impound fence and site prep.
I talked to Robbie about this afternoon. This is something that could probably come out. I think there's some workings that might be coming together here in the next few months and might provide a alternative to this. This is actually for securing vehicles that have been yanked off the street. They're typically been put into public works yard, but they're running out of room now and they're actually putting them in behind the public works yard and just put a fence around it so they can kind of keep the people from walking around the property and going through the vehicles. So it's, is it mission critical? No, because at the end of the day, those vehicles end up getting sold off anyways, most of them.
So is it will council to remove that?
Administration's recommendation, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, program position removed. Tony, I'm gonna refer to you really quick, because, and I think I have to be careful here too, but I wanna know from your standpoint, what you feel is necessary to deliver the services that our residents are asking for, right now. Tony, are you there? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm honestly, Colin, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. I feel that our community, we need to find out what our community wants.
Okay.
Exactly. For the past 5 years, we've tried community programming, and we've had ups and downs, and so I'm not sure how to answer that.
Are you okay with it being removed and sufficient to be able to, I mean, I know, I completely understand what you're saying, like, I think we need to do a little more work on our part, right, communication wise in town halls to find out what people want first, you're right. But I'll digress there, Councillor Bashara.
With the parks plan, does the scope include an assessment of programming that can be done in our parks and recreation plan?
I'm gonna refer that question to Steve.
Typically not, we're talking about joining recreation, more of a recreational holistic, how to look at the programming. This is just strictly, from my understanding, more at the park space itself. If I can, Mr. Mayor, one other comment. We may want to leave a little bit of money in here, put some money back in just to get some resources if some partnership opportunities come up too, because there is potentially a few organizations that might materialize over the next number of months that may be partnership driven in terms of providing community programs, where you might not have to get our fingers into it, but they'll just be supportive, right? The best example I can give is the Boys and Girls Club in North Battleford. The city and other organizations gave funding to them and they ran playground, you know, and camps and stuff like that, and so that just a comment. I mean, there's nothing in the fire at the moment in terms of, you know, something's gonna come in tomorrow morning, but
Does that blur the lines of our community grant program though that we're proposing?
may or may not though, because,
Take that 14,000 from the fence and slap her in the back into that area?
I think if I can make a suggestion, put about $20,000 in there, and just to give a little bit of ammunition, because you don't know what's going to come up here in the next couple of months, and once we're starting to beat the bushes here, I mean, I've reached out to 2 big institutions already, and we may have our answer here in about a week and a half time. So,
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, picking Tony's brain. You say we don't know what our community actually wants. We can't codify, we can't put it down on paper. So is there something that we can do or take on in this budget that would allow us to do that?
Like a survey monkey or what?
that's kind of what I'm suggesting here, is put $20,000 in there to give some resources. Could be partnership driven, could be a joint program review, like I'm just suggesting leave $20,000 in there. It's just a little bit of wiggle room. Could be a partnership discussion, could be, you know, entering into a discussion with an outfit, come up here and do a review. I mean,
It could be the pop-up shop on the beach we talked about with equipment rental, right?
just to give
I would
some
like,
resources.
I would like to see a study done for programming in our region that includes the band, Air Orange, the Northern Municipal Services, and the Town of Orange.
I'm happy to support $20,000 if that gets us closer to a regional effort.
Well, just as, I know discussion's high on council's priority list after last week, and I would hate to see us get into a really good discussion and go, where does the money come from?
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to page 12. So it's 20,000, right? Is that what
Yes.
we're sort of earmarking? Okay.
that takes care of part one.
Yeah, it does. And so Councillor Bashar, you sort of pointed out this decrease.
Yeah, so there's a decrease in parks and playground expenses. Is that because projects were abandoned or never taken up, or there's no need for improvements in some of our facilities, or are we just waiting for the parks plan?
That decreases solely because of the programmer position being gone, and that's where all the programming expenses were.
That's the supplies and all that would be used to run the program.
So just from rough numbers here, the community, like for, I guess, future budgetary discussions and whatnot, if we just take for a budgetary rough estimate here, if we take the salary and the parks and playground expenses and combine them, that would roughly be what it would cost to potentially operationalize a community program position again. Right, so I mean, maybe 40, 120, roughly, for future deliberations.
Is, Is that question for me, George?
No, whoever was able to answer it, and Stephen gave me the nod, so.
Okay.
Okay,
He's better at counting than me.
and then we move down to the decrease in transfers to utility capital. I'm sorry, I apologize, I can't remember who pulled that up.
Just see capital sheet.
That was Councilor Bouchard.
Yeah, I'm just curious, so see capital sheet, that was,
So Pat, can you just give a,
Yeah.
can you give a 60-second summary of what's going on with that final explanation there?
No,
You have a dartboard?
So we can come back to that.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, page 13, building services expenses. What is,
I'm gonna take a run at that one, that we have a contractor that comes in, and actually, I think his name is Mr. Kurtzinger. Comes in, does work on the buildings for us, fixing doors, putting stands up in the server room, and all that. I believe that's what that budget line is for.
okay,
That's including materials?
Correct. That's just,
That's not wages, that's.
this building O&M.
Okay.
okay, dog control expenses.
So that's, it looks like it's our contract with NAR Plus.
Yeah, it could be two other things, within our contract is $30,000.
I'm curious, because it's gonna be a policy discussion that we're gonna need to have. And I guess I didn't maybe bring it up at the right time, but I would like to see, it doesn't have to be a lot, but something invested in our dog pound this year, because it's harming the animals. So, couple $1,000, NAR is more than capable of getting support to do labor, but material expenses is one thing I think that we as a town, it being our facility, we should be putting in our budget.
Is there something that they can run like a fundraiser and a work bee around?
NAR runs fundraisers all the time.
But like really throw a fundraiser, like get a lot of the I mean, not to discredit anything, but
Yeah.
like really because I haven't seen one where there's a massive advertisement and I mean, this, I shouldn't really be talking on their behalf, but I know like even just as a work bee, I mean, maybe this is something that we do put, because I mean, I'm willing to swing a hammer, and maybe there's probably a lot of other people in the town that do as well, but.
Are we not only supplying the building, are we also supplying the utilities on that pad? Would you know, on that dog pound? Steve, would know.
We must be.
So basically, what we're doing is we're giving them a building, we're giving them $37,000, we're paying for the utilities, and again, back to Mayor Rakushna, we're giving, and yet, if they come back with a plan as to what we want, like how much more money we're gonna invest in our dog control.
I would like to point out that it is our municipal responsibility to provide animal control in the municipality. It is our legislative duty to do so. The pound that we put our animals in, whether we're paying, partnering with a community volunteer, entirely volunteer organization to provide those services, our facility is deficient. The grates, you know what, literally, if we gave them $2,000 for some plexiglass so the animals didn't cut their paws and noses in there, that is all I'm asking for. That is, like, I know it's a contentious issue at this table, and I'm very passionate about it, but every time, I'm a constant foster, and they have an amazing network of people in this community that contribute, that donate, that help them fundraise, that volunteer, and they are capable of a lot, and I don't think you understand how much they actually do beyond just our animal control.
I truly understand.
But this is not necessarily even pertaining to our contract so much as it is our building. Our facility is not humane to be keeping animals in. in my opinion.
As a point of interest, PA SPCA ran a massive big fundraiser and raised $1.5 million, and no money came from the city at all.
Mhm.
So I think that we can get creative
But
with
does
this.
PASBCA provide all animal control within PA?
Do you know that, Angela? Yes. So,
Okay.
I think we need to, I mean, I'm willing to give the time, but I mean, I think we just have to just bring people together, and,
So what I'm asking for though, all I'm saying is our facility has been deficient for years and has never been fixed. And literally, a little bit of money will fix the problem and create a humane space to keep the animals in.
so what are you proposing, and then can we?
I would like to say, let's put $2,000 on the table, and I'm sure NAR will match that with labor and their own resources.
Does anyone have, is anybody against that? Does anybody?
Well, I'd like to make a comment, it used to be, dog control used to be a shed right by the town shop, and that was inhumane, and it went on for a while. The water would freeze in the bowls, because it was, but anyway, it was moved into this facility as an upgrade, but you can't, because of the asbestos in there, you can't cut any holes in the walls to get the dogs to go out, in and out. There's a lot of issues, but.
Sorry, point of interest, yeah.
I stand to correct you on that. It was, when a feral dog, a little wild in there, it chewed holes in the wall, and that asbestos seemed to come up at that point. So samples were taken, sent to the ALS lab, and it was well within the compliance of the Asbestos Act. They couldn't find the asbestos that is so talked about. So, I just wanted to.
I guess I got that information from the old fire chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to remind council that we still have the $5,000 special necessary grant in the budget for council. That again, you can do it time tonight too. There's some money in the budget that could be allocated to this potentially future year too.
Is it will of council to put $2,000 towards that, and then just drop that special to $3,000 so that it's reallocated?
Well, I appreciate that, because then we can have further consultation. It's $5,000. And again, going back to your conversation of having a fundraiser, the money is there. Let's get some further feedback from NAR and continue on from there.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Okay.
I'm not against that, I would support it, however, you must realize that that's just going to be a Band-Aid, because eventually
Yes.
that town needs to expand and needs to be fit all regulations. So
Right.
it's $2,000 to provide a Band-Aid for
Mhm.
now, right?
For now, right, that we can,
100%.
Yeah.
that can eventually grow into something bigger, right? If we invest the right amount of time for a mass, and I'm talking every single dog owner or lover or whatever that is in this town gets involved, and it's a call to action, and it's, you show pictures, you show like we need
Yeah,
something better.
NAR has
you
been
know?
working, and, they have limited capacity being a fully volunteer board.
Mhm.
I am aware, they have been working for many years, like, they've been here for 10 years, and I don't know, people that have been here a long time can probably attest to the impact that they've had on roaming animals and packs of dogs and, the danger posed by that.
Mhm.
They are aware, like in my conversations with them, they are working on solutions, big picture solutions, and it's capacity limitations that stop them from being able to slam a proposal on the municipality's desk and say, let's figure out how we can maybe support each other in this, or, and that's the thing, is
I get it, I
I'm
totally get it.
pushing, I'm
Okay,
too
totally get it.
nervous.
We're gonna move on unless you,
One
sure.
comment is the money they're actually receiving is in lieu of a dog catcher, which we would be paying for anyway.
Yes,
So,
we would have to pay Robbie to spend his time chasing dogs
Yeah.
if we didn't.
We're gonna move on past that, if that's okay.
Bylaw enforcement.
May I answer your question now, Mayor?
Yes, please.
100,000 of that was a non-transfer to the reserve this year because we were cutting corners in the budget. And the other 197 was a decrease in the expenses, the capital expenses. So that was the SPS 2 upgrade, the 1 upgrade, the ventilation, that kind of stuff. It came in, the budgeted amount came in that much less to what it was budgeted in this category last year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to,
By law enforcement expenses, there's,
oh, sorry.
What page are you on, sorry?
Oh, sorry, yes, I missed
It's
that one, yes.
13.
Yeah, by law enforcement expenses, thank you. Is there questions about that?
Is that just a refocus on enforcement? And some of our accounting shifts that we've done?
This is a game where we're now going into additional detail we might cut out with the $14,000 impound offense already, so this is where we gotta be careful now, we're going through potentially the same details again.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Diskey, did you have something? Councilor Diskey? No? Page 14, operation expenses on the economic development and planning detail.
Are these basically just salary and onboarding for economic development officer?
Most part of I'll defer that to Pat just to confirm that.
Okay.
The big change in this category is garbage truck maintenance. The old garbage truck took a lot of maintenance to keep it on the road before the new one arrived.
Oh, economic development.
Page 14.
Page 14, yeah.
I'm gonna say with 90% certainty, it's largely the wages that are driving up.
And there's no additional budget for any of their programs?
There will be some in there that we saved from, which you started midway through the year, so we managed to adjust some of the salary down. This is actually where we got some costs before we presented to council.
Okay.
Do you need any further clarification on that? Okay, so then we go down to library expenses, which she gave you, right?
The detail, yeah.
Okay, so that is expenses. We go to revenues, which is number 7, or sorry, that's not right. 4, sorry. Revenue and reserves starting out the same. Okay, let's do the same thing really quick. Page 6. Anything that stands out here?
Just a question around the mobile home fees. Are these the mobile homes at Quarry, at Reese, both? Do we have any jurisdiction over those? I'm just a little concerned about the state of some of those lots. There's abandoned lots at Quarry,
Yeah.
lots of
If I
disrepair.
can, Counselor, I'm working with Robbie right now, and that's part of the work plan for industry to start delaying some of his activities, to start focusing more on bylaw. We're having 1 or 2 right now that is actually actively going after that one particular trailer court. We're gonna have to engage a lawyer on just to make sure we got all our buttons in a row, but it is on the work plan for this year to start going after it and start enforcing property standards.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, anything else on that page? Okay, move over to page 7. Any questions? A lot of that was dealt with in capital. Right, okay, move on to page 8. Any questions?
The one I will have is on the taxes.
Actually, okay, so we'll come back to that. And then page 9. Any questions? Okay, so we go back to page 8 and talk about taxes.
So the question I have, I do see that right now our previous budget was 2 million. The actual was a little higher, and our budget is back to where it was in the previous year. Is that because we foresee a decrease in overall taxing, or taxes in the community? Or is that like some sort of foresight from the reassessments that will be occurring?
That was foresight, yes, Mayor, or Councillor McPhail. because I was getting some information from Sama along the year, I knew that there was a good possibility that the assessed value would go down, and I was afraid that it was going to be a big hit, and actually the numbers that came in, I did a quick calculation, and it's down to what I budgeted. It's down from the previous year budget, it's down over $94,000 for this year. And I didn't want to overestimate to do the budget because a good positive budget is always a nice surprise at the end. So I didn't want you to think that you had a whole bunch more taxes coming that you really didn't.
So, two things. One, we're setting the budget at previous year's numbers. Two, the reduction that Pat was speaking to is the change in the percentage taxable for commercial. So, if we want to retain the same level of taxation for commercial as we did in the previous year, we'd have to play around with our tax tools to get back that level. So, again, we set what we need for taxation here, and we play with the mill rates, because now what that means, if we let everything kind of like play out, taxation now is shifting more from commercial to residential, because with the tax change now, going from 185%, commercial's paying less, which means residential has to pay more. We have to play with our tax tools to get back to where council's comfortable.
So, and that's kind of the reason why I was asking that main taxation part is, do we see a massive decrease or increase with the reassessment? Have we gotten any kind of foresight on that? So as long as that budget number is fine, I'm fine.
So I do want to stress, my experience in reassessment, no matter how hard you try, there is winners and there is losers. The one comment I wanted to make the other night when Sam was here, I just thought it is a good sign of a healthy economy when you have 100 property sales and you actually see your numbers start going up. And I know well enough that that's bucking the trend, which means you got a strong local economy in terms of property sales if they're starting to see increase and stuff like that. 100 sales, and for them to be able to develop a model off of just sales of their own is a good sign. So, anyways, I digress.
One thing about taxes, I guess we're gonna have to get the messaging right, because, you know, when you look at the multi-dwelling are gonna go up at 35%, it's gonna be hard to say you're not getting a tax increase, because it's, I don't know if there's tools in place to offer that.
Yeah, we'll have to, Pat will have to sit down and play around with those mill rate factors and all that. It's getting back to what every class paid for taxation, so again, what's their overall percentage making up, then seeing how we play with the tax tools to get it back to where they were before, as best we can.
I mean, we did hear that there was the decrease in commercial due to going from 100 to 85. The second part of that also, that we heard, that I heard clearly from Sama, is the multi-dwelling units also went up. The problem is that the Cities Act is able to go in and find the differences between commercial and then high-density residential and low-density residential. Within the NMA we can't. So, I mean, we still have some tax tools available to us, but to be able to decrease what we can do on one specific type of property class, we're not able to do that. From my understanding.
It's going to be a challenge.
Right.
So
You may be able to use the base tax, because the base tax in case could reduce it on those.
we'll certainly work through it, and we'll apply some creativity to it.
Okay. Any
What
other?
I did look at was the 6 around the table. One's property value went down and 5 increased.
Yeah, when we bring the tax tools back, we'll have more detail. I think it's kind of late in the night to get into the individual details.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, any other concerns on that? Okay, so let's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, please go ahead.
I guess the only thing that was left is kind of the unbudgeted list that I see, and I was kind of wondering where we're at from our CFO on where we, with the changes that we went through, I think on the 3 parts of the budgetary items here, where we're currently sitting as far as a change in surplus or net zero.
Sorry, can we finish with the reserves first, just
Oh.
any?
I thought we were done, sorry.
Sorry, is there any concerns with reserves? That's page 26, and then we'll go to that last point there. No. Pat, is there any major changes in reserves that need to be highlighted here?
Yes, because we have quite a few changes in airport and transportation.
Okay.
So this won't be valid anymore.
Okay, so what about the museum reserve? What are we gonna do with that? Like, do we just,
We'll dig into that one.
We're gonna dig into that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
we won't have
Alright.
that separation.
okay,
Okay, all right, so let's go to that unbudgeted list, and if we can sort of have a check and balance to see where we're at, plus or minus.
We get an AC unit in
The discounts are programmed, so at 10 o'clock, that's when everything kind of shuts down.
There's a window.
Actually, yeah, you could open that window.
Yeah,
Yeah. Open it up a little bit.
it's my biggest fan, the way.
my husband sleeps with
So Pat, are you just quickly giving the calculations there just to see where we're at?
Yeah, just give me a second.
Yeah, no problem, I just wanted to make sure you weren't frozen there.
You thought I went to sleep, didn't you?
Well, I'm pretty close, so.
It's past my bedtime.
Are we gonna get through this today?
Yeah, we
I
are.
think we're close.
We're very close.
Yeah,
I want to.
So an hour.
do that.
an hour and 5 minutes.
So tomorrow, then.
We actually had
we'll
the
have
motion at midnight to continue if we get there.
Oh, that's true. I would
a
like to do
physically
that.
distant celebration of not having to actually have a meeting.
Should've done it on a Friday. That way we don't, well, maybe people were tired, you know, Saturdays. we
I
can-
work every day.
You Saturdays?
Yeah.
So next time we do on Friday, that way we can see it.
We're just waiting, Pat's just doing calculations here real quick.
How many views did we have? That was 72 was the highest, you said? 72 viewers? Were,
73.
oh wow. Thank you for viewing, everybody. If anyone's
See
here.
if anyone's made it this far.
I think this is kind of like that Dallas 10th overtime NHL game where there's like 3 diehard fans left just hanging out.
Can we check?
Is that a real thing?
Allison, how many views?
I think it was like the 3rd longest game in history or something.
And you know what, I remember, because I stood up to the very end, stayed up to the very end and watched it.
You stayed up and watched it?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's dedication. Wasn't it like a game 7 too?
Yep,
So whoever scored the next goal won the series?
that's where they went all the way to the cup.
Yeah.
I believe, wasn't it?
Who?
One. One is a lot. It's probably you. It's probably you, right? It's I did. It's probably you. 'Cause that's cute. Maybe it's my kids. Aw. No.
How much feedback do we
Is
get?
that while Pat's still looking here, is that your hockey team, the Stars?
Oh,
No.
oh, it's Heather Bernard, hi Heather.
Oh, hi Heather.
Did she just text you?
No, she commented at 10:57, so I'm assuming it's
No,
her.
it's, the Oilers on my team.
Oilers?
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heather will be our
You
most
went to the
diehard
hockey?
fan till the
Been
end.
to the new hockey rink?
They're building new one?
No, have you been to the new one in
No.
Hamilton? It's nice.
Yeah. They have to have a good rink and some good seats because they don't have a good team.
Oh, well, that was a really good idea, that we go.
Yeah. The difference between the Edmonton Oilers and the cigarette machine. Cigarette machine has players in it.
Oh. Yeesh, somebody call Keaton, we need the burn unit. Oh, it's getting too late.
I think Keaton's still on there.
Yeah.
No, I'm here.
You wanna bring the truck down and guard the boat?
Somebody had the foresight to open up the window, fantastic.
That's what we're gonna say, that's new unlisted budget items for, is an AC unit in here.
Well, didn't we just fix all the heating?
The competing, and it works.
We should get little pedal bikes for under, or something, just pedal.
Just
What are those called? Mobies, Tobies? Like a little pedal.
what kind of shoes is the mayor wearing? Because he has to give a speech on what kind of shoes he's wearing and what that means for
When is
the
that?
See,
Oh.
deputy mayor's wearing flip flops.
I'm wearing suede shoes that need to be replaced, but
Oh, excuse me.
they're like an Aldo special. I don't buy anything over this.
Neither do I, like everything.
That reflects pretty well.
Except for one thing. And that's how I got to buy that one thing.
Yeah, you're gonna be nice, dude.
Double the gas tax kick in.
When did what?
I hear they're supposed to double the gas tax. Put that into municipal project.
Yeah, that actually, so that thing that I forwarded you, it's something that will be coming down, and I don't know enough about it. It's a very high level conversation for me, and something that will get passed through him, so that introduction will happen, but they didn't give any timeline just yet, but it's
Well,
good news,
it's
yeah.
usually no other council.
Yeah.
They don't come for it, they hasn't already, they just have been too busy to look.
You're a Habs fan, eh?
80 views, you guys.
How many?
80.
That's good.
We are YouTube influencers.
We are. How we good at TikTok? Just kidding. Gosh, could you
That's okay, I signed in from like 10 different devices, just clicked on it.
Could you imagine a town TikTok?
That'd be hilarious, first of all. We would put ourselves on the map. I don't even have TikTok, but I think that'd be.
Yeah, I don't know. Just do one of those dances, you know? Like,
Oh my gosh, as a
dances?
council?
Yeah, in the parking lot. We'd be like, what is it? Go to the left, I can't remember.
No. I think the mayor and the deputy mayor just vetoed that.
I don't know.
No, I'm all
We
for
did
it.
that.
I'm actually all for community
Shit.
spirit, so.
Community spirit, sure, TikTok.
Oh,
Well, it doesn't have to be on TikTok.
How's it any different than Facebook and all, like, it's just a different way to engage with people.
Is there a town
you have a number
launch,
now?
speech,
What?
song, anything? Oh, Pat, sorry, Pat. Are you waiting for us to finish our answer?
Okay, I think I have the new reserve page right.
Perfect.
So what I did was decrease the municipal infrastructure equipment reserve by $62,000 because we're not taking that out anymore.
Okay.
So then that increases your grand total to 7,000 for a balance for the end of 2021. 7 million, I mean. I'm tired.
Okay, like what,
I literally just wrote $7 billion, Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy to come to this municipality and start dealing with numbers like this, let me tell you.
So, and then now that we go to our unbudgeted page here, how much money do we have? I don't know the right.
What's our net surplus right
Thank
now?
you.
Freed up $332,000.
What's that?
Freed up $332,000 in combination reserves and revenues.
Plus the additional forecasted 48.
Correct.
Plus 48?
48,000? Oh,
Yeah.
What is that from again, sorry?
That was just before we did anything, we had a net projected surplus of 48,000.
380?
Well, we need to check the numbers here again.
Okay.
Yeah. $331,396 and freed up. What freed up?
Okay, so now that we go to our unbudgeted items here, do we reallocate this? Or what do we do? I don't know.
Well, I think you should put prairie pieces, for sure.
The question I have is, sorry, maybe it's been a long meeting, maybe it's been answered already, and I apologize if it has. The money that we will have to do to fix Cuthand Street, has that been budgeted already?
It is not.
And that's 250, right?
For the total loop, to complete the loop, it's
Well,
250.
So my guesstimate's gonna be anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000, just depending on.
What I would say is if we can look at the end of the third quarter and maybe prioritize something in here at the end of the third quarter, I think that would be the smartest move for us. That way we leave this contingency of 380 and the potential that the budgeted price that we have skyrockets.
I really, really, really think that we should put the corridor plan in our budget for this year.
As a priority.
Because that's money that we'll leave on the table
Yeah.
if we don't.
The Cuthand one, some of that can be, come out of the Northern Trust account, so
I
that,
think what Councilor McPhail's saying is that we can take some of the Northern Capital here in the third quarter for Cuthand, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what,
so some of it will have to come out of,
yeah, some of that might be.
Councillor Guthrie?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Unmute, please. Thank you.
I agree with Councillor Bishara, and I think we should put $100,000 into the economic corridor development plan.
I will third that, although we don't need a third, but I think that's an investment.
on the deciding vote, I suppose that,
You what?
I suppose that makes me a deciding vote
You agree?
Like the fourth, so,
for the corridor plan to be in.
yeah, that's necessary, especially to move the community forward.
Okay, is there any other discussion around that and why we shouldn't potentially?
Well, the only thing I can say is that in our discussions yesterday, we did see that this was a large project, if you will, that we're gonna have to undertake. And when we have expertise at the table that has put a lot of the pipe in the ground, as we've said, there was some anticipation that it would be higher than that. With that potentially putting us into a deficit if we already earmarked 100,000, which is basically a quarter of what we have here. The only thing that I might say is if we have a Northern Municipal Capital Grant Program, that might cover some of these costs to really decrease the total amount that we have there. I would prefer that the economic corridor plan be postponed until the end of quarter three. That at that decision, when we have a better idea and understanding of what it's going to cost in the total to repair the infrastructure that we have there, and we don't know if there's going to be another one coming up. I would prefer that this be decided on at the end of the third quarter.
So just, it's $248,000 in freed up Northern Capital money right now, is what we freed up.
So 248 plus the 332 that was in the reserves that we had.
So if we leave it till the end of the third quarter, that will be in the winter? That takes us into the, what month does that take that into?
To do the consultation on that, you're probably looking at not getting something going until about this time next year.
Right, and
If there's intent to do it, which there is, I think we just put it in the budget and that's it.
yeah,
Because the thing is, we've got an RCP building that's gonna be coming here, and they're already talking about negotiating for land in the next 9 to 12 months. That's what they said. They'll actually come to the town and start buying land in the next 9 to 12 months. So
And
we're not looking at 3 years out, we're looking at, they said, they'll have the building built in the next 3 to 4 years.
And I think in terms of Cuthand, I think there's potential to actually get some compensation. I mean, it's something that would have to be done from the existing system to accommodate the long-term care facility. There may be an opportunity to share some of that.
I'm gonna share something with you. We installed them service lines into the hospital. They got adequate infrastructure to service that long-term care facility. So I know it's a really nice thought, but honestly, the infrastructure's already dug into that building, the 6-inch beam to service that. Now I'm hoping Chigar and his investigations can tie into a fire hydrant, which will bring down the cost of that. So
Yeah, that's,
I think we're dreaming to get SHA to kick in.
There's still maybe a need for the fire hydrant, for sure.
So
yeah, from what I understand, Councilor.
you're gonna be budgeting at a minimum of that 248,000, have that minimum, so.
So if I'm clear, so the only thing that we're adding here is we're adding the $100,000, infrastructure, or sorry, goodness, the economic corridor plan development, and the rest we are keeping as off the table, just for the extra costs that are coming up here shortly. Is that correct?
The only other thing that we had that was a potential was the fire break maintenance.
Right.
Right.
That was something that the fire chief did mention was necessary. So-
Sorry, go ahead.
If you are knowledgeable on the Northern Municipal Capital Grant Program, if we have $248,000 really available that we freed up this year, is it an 80% municipally funded thing, or they fund 80%, we have to do 20?
I have to get into account for that, I can't confidently speak.
Because if I know that if they'll cover 80% of the cost on Cutland, then it makes it a lot easier to say yes to both the economic corridor plan and fire break maintenance. But now that we've approved the economic corridor plan, with at least the will of council at the table with 4 people voting in favor of it, it's going to make it more difficult to now cut into that $50,000.
If I can make a suggestion, I think we're getting really close to the end. Can we leave the discussion and we'll bring it back to the meeting on the 27th with the economic corridor plan in, and then we can have a discussion at that meeting, just say, do we want to slip the $50,000 or $25,000 into the fire break at that time? Because if that's the last item on the table here to discuss, we can work the numbers up and see what we can kind of figure out to get the fire break back in, if that's the will of council.
In lieu of all the chicken scratch I put on here, so you're gonna redo all these sheets? And
We will,
we'll get-
we'll dust it up, the sheets will get redone, because there'll be an official budget gets put up onto the
and we'll
website once it's approved.
get amended copies.
Yeah, we'll get copies out, but what we'll bring back to the next meeting is the final numbers that council approves, right? We've gone through, cleaned up all the numbers now, and this is where now we come back to council saying, here's the budget revenues, here's the budget expenses, and that's the resolution that we operate to now for 2021. I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
So-
that does.
Okay, so we do need a resolution, right, to table this, is that right, or?
I think, well, I think we can do an adjournment and we'll bring it as an issue report to the next council meeting. I think we're done.
Yeah, because we have to finalize the budget, you can't finalize it tonight.
Right, because it's,
Just as a point of order too, we need a formal resolution or a formal approval of the agenda. Allison texted me that we forgot to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented for our 2021-2022 budget meeting on April 14th, 2021.
all in favor, say aye.
Alright,
All opposed, say nay.
alright, let's start.
We need a motion to adjourn, which I can do, correct?
so
Okay,
moved.
motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thanks, Ryan.
Have a good evening.
Thanks all the stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Tell them to put it on.
Apologize that you have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. So